Okay.
Hi, welcome to the Intuitive Insight School of Intuition podcast. I am Vessa Reinhart-Phillips. I'm the director and the senior reader at the school, and I'm joined with Corey Davidson, the #1 clairvoyant teacher in the United States. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you, Vessa. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And we also have a special guest today. We have Dr. Yvonne Kirkpatrick. She's the voice of the animals, and she's also writing a book entitled the same thing, The Voice of the Animals, What They Want You to Know. She's an animal communicator for decades and decades since she was able to talk. Welcome, Yvonne.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's start out with you, Yvonne. Tell us something about animals. What do you want to tell us about animals? I know your book is a teaching book, and so what is one of the greatest lessons you've learned, and what do they want us to know?
So first of all, we all vibrate at a certain frequency. And if we, say, for example, come home from work and we're stressed out and agitated, and we walk through the door and our dog is there to meet us, they will pick up on that energy and they will, take it upon themselves. They want to fix us, they want to heal us, and they will take that energy on. And so a lot of times they either wind up getting sick, they wind up having behaviors that are not so good. Um, and so, one of the things that I enjoy teaching people is how to heal their animals. Um, Many times, it's just simply, petting them with the intention that we are rubbing as we're going from head to tail. We are attracting all that negativity that we just threw at them. We're pulling it into our hand and throwing it to the ground so we can ground our pet. And we notice immediately a big difference. Animals respond very well to healing and also to communication.
So you're saying that you take your hands and you rub the animal or pet the animal, and it pulls the energy off. It takes the energy off.
Yes, and I have the intention in my mind as I'm doing that my hand is like a magnet. It's attracting any of the negative energy that the animal is carrying. And so I just stroke it from the head all the way down to the tail, and then I grab it in my hand and I throw it to the ground.
That
Then,
is That is so amazing. I used to have a friend of mine. He would always say, rub my shoulders," and I rub his shoulders, and it felt like all this energy would get in my hands. This was before I was a official reader psychic. I would get all this energy. It would be like this ball of energy, and I would shake it out, and then it would be gone. So this you can do this with animals too, is what you're
You can
saying.
you can do that with animals. And it's funny that you mentioned shaking it out because dogs have a natural ability to shake off, like say they got traumatized or, something happened to them, they freaked out. You'll see them many times shaking, and that kind of like shakes that energy out.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, that is a great way to give your dog a healing, so they're in or cat or any type of animal
Hmm.
a healing. You know, one question I wanted to ask you is I've had this phenomena happen lots of times in my life where a wild animal will come and give me a message, and sometimes I it comes through birds quite often with me. I have a sixth sense with birds and with horses and stuff like that, but sometimes I'll get a message from an animal. Does that
Hmm.
ever happen to you, or have you had
Oh
that
yeah,
experience?
yeah. Yeah, oh, absolutely. It reminds me, my friend and I were in Sedona hiking, and we kind of got turned around and we felt like we were lost. And there was a, a raven sitting up on a tree, and it kept cawing at us like caw, caw. And I said, "Oh, okay, he'll lead us out of here." So I instantly went into my animal communication mode. I grounded myself. I got relaxed. I sent out a picture to the bird, like, "Can you help us navigate out of here?" And I got a caw, and I said, "Okay, what does left mean? It goes ka. What does right mean? Ka, ka. So we were walking along and it would go ka. And we'd go, oh, okay, we got to turn this way. And then it would say ka, ka. So we'd go the other way. And it got us out of there.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Yeah, I've had some experiences like that. Corey, you're nodding your head. Did you have something like that happen, or if you had some connection with the wild animals or
Yeah, actually,
domesticated?
yeah. You know, I had this home and it overlooked the ocean, and we would have hawks come and dragonflies, and they always had messages. They always had messages. And actually, yesterday, you know, I was going to the pet store, and this dragonfly came in. My voice is funky today, but um, this dragonfly just out of nowhere just flew right in front of me. I was like, hello, flew around. And I was like, well, hello. Thank you for showing me that you're here. And then I heard the dragonfly said, we're so happy you're here. And I was like, oh, and I love that. Yeah, I love that.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Thank you. So Yvonne, tell us more about your experiences with animals. I know you've had quite a variety, not just dogs and cats, but other animals. And I know there was a one time you were running the pet healing clinic, and someone brought in a picture of a lion to heal from the zoo. So I know you've healed a variety of animals. What did you notice about all the different type of animals, not just dogs and cats?
So one of the interesting things is the wild animals have a cleaner energy field. They have a cleaner communication style than domesticated animals. And I believe it's because the domesticated animals take on a lot of the human's
Mm.
characteristics and they learn to not be as direct or as transparent as a wild animal would be. They are just what they are. And I remember that particular lion. The handler for that lion had gone out of town for a couple of weeks, and she came back and heard that it wasn't eating, and so she was very concerned. So she came in to see me, and I said, "Well, next time you go out of town, leave one of your well-worn T-shirts with your scent, with the lion, and then also sit down with it and send it a message that I'm going to be out of town for so many days, name how many days you're going to be gone, maybe give a little story of where you're going, some pictures, because animals like to see things in pictures, and where, what kinds of things you'll be doing while you're gone. And then also while you're gone, maybe imagine that you're seeing her in your mind's eye and you're talking to her and say, I'm well, no big lion ate me, I'm still alive, because they worry. And so she tried that the next time she went out of town and everything was fine. The lion, just kind of like, oh, okay, I know you're okay then.
That's
So
go.
yeah. So I'm jumping over to my trip to Africa. So I was invited by a wildlife photographer named Paul Renner. He's a pretty famous wildlife photographer up in Orange County. And he invited me to go all expense paid trip to Kenya for 2 weeks and teach the 12 photographers that were with him how to communicate with the animals. And of course, everybody had to be in my Jeep, oh, can we be with you? Can we be with you? And I said, no, only, my fiance at the time, and then Paul Renner can be in my Jeep. And everybody else had to, just practice the tools I taught them. And so, we would go out 2 safaris a day for 3 hours each for 14 days. It was fascinating because they would tell us, oh yeah, there's leopards. They only come out at night. We probably won't see any during the day. And I said, oh yeah, that's what you think. So I immediately went to work on communicating with any leopards that were in the area to please come forward, because we're so excited to see them. It would be the greatest, thing in the world if they showed themselves to us. And sure enough, one of the drivers said, "Oh, leopard, we spotted a leopard in the tree. Let's go running over there." And sure enough, there he was, one eye's closed. He's looking at us, his arms over the tree branch. And it was almost like he was smiling, like, "Huh, I got your picture."
That's great. There's so many times I've sent messages to animals too, because one time I did that, several times when I went out of town with my dog. I would show him sun up, sundown, sun up, sundown. And I taught my sister to do that with their cats. So the cat, you're going to be gone for 3 days. So you say, okay, in pictures, you visualize, it's sundown, sun up, sundown, sun up, sundown, sun up. Then I walk in the door and the cat's like, oh, it's 3 days. Okay. And the cat, sometimes the sun coming down and up is how they figure it out. It's almost like you're talking to an American Indian that you've never spoken English before, and you're communicating to them about how to perceive when you're going to come back. And that worked really well with their cats. They weren't freaked out or stopped eating, as you said. So that is something I do with that. But that is really great too, with that you communicated and told the animals to show up to be seen. That is amazing. Yeah, because we say hello to the body, like, oh, there's a fluffy kitty, or oh, there's a but if you say hello to the soul of the animal, and that goes on to, we're going to have a show in a podcast about mediumship. But I had a cat I loved. His name was Mew, and it was a little black cat. And we had to move a bunch of times, and we took this cat with us when I was growing up. And that cat was my life. I loved this cat. And he got a bad disease eventually and died. And I didn't have him anymore. And it was just the most devastating thing as a young teen, because I had him so many years. And so I would communicate with him as a spirit, that had passed over, and he'd always show up and say meow or whatever. And then one day I said, wait a minute, I'm confining this animal to the body. I'm not saying hello to him as a soul. And I just, for the first time, said hello to him as a color, as a being. And all of a sudden he started talking back to me. He goes, oh, finally you got over your issue about communicating, and you can talk to me. I want to tell you so many things. And he told me all this stuff about what it was like being a cat, what it was like being a spirit. And I had to get out of my handicap of thinking he was just going to talk to me like a little baby. And, that transitioning, that I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but when I had my son, I was pregnant, and I got pulled over by the police for speeding in Claremont one time. And I was pregnant, and I had my son as a soul. I was talking to him, and I had him sitting on the car seat, the soul of him sitting on the car seat. And I'd been driving and kind of talking to him before I, had him as a baby. And we got pulled over, and all of a sudden he answers me in this man's voice. He says, oh, tell the policeman to give you a warning. And I was expecting a little tiny baby going, hi, you're so cute. I would talk to him one way, but then all of a sudden he talked to me, and he said, hey, tell that policeman. And a man's like, and now he's 21. But anyway, the policeman came over, and I said, could you please just give me a warning? And he said, yeah, I'll give you a warning this time. And so I was like, oh, thank you, Tanner, before he got born. Yeah. Anyway, Corey, you look like you want to say something. Is there anything you want to add?
It's what came to mind was, I had 2 miniature Australian Shepherds, and last year we just lost one of them. And we had lost the sister years prior. But I would be laying on my bed, and sometimes if I was sad, just confused or really tired, or I had an injury, all of a sudden I would feel um, like an animal jumping up on the bed, and then the feet just right up, and then like a plop right beside me. And at first I was like, wait, what? And I turned around, there was nothing there, but it kept happening. And then I was like, all right, who is this? Who is that? And our dog, Cinnamon, said, it's me, Cindy. I'm just here to comfort you. I'm still here. Oh, it was so amazing.
Yes, you got visited.
I
But
got visited.
and,
Yes.
and sometimes they're still in the house. They passed away, but they're still in the house. That's a great point, because that's happened to me too. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it still happens from time to time. So no matter where we go, it's amazing.
It is
Yeah.
always with you.
I thought, wait, is that just me? Wait. But kept happening until I recognized, until I asked, who is this?
Yeah.
And then she told me, and then, she still does it.
Yeah.
But
Because they shed their body, but they're still there. Yvonne, one question I thought of is, I know you had bearded dragon lizards, and you've had cockatiel birds, and you've had lots of different creatures. Um, is there a difference in energy between each of the species that you see, or you're more of talking to them as a soul, as a spirit?
So that's a very good question because um, animals do evolve at different levels, just like humans do. You know, there can be highly evolved dogs, and then there can be some real doofus dogs. I've had both. Um, and I think it's important to not prejudge that all Shelties are going to be intelligent and super spiritual, um, and all snakes are going to be all slimy and whatever. Because I've had, like you say, I've had the lizards, and I've had snakes, and I've had, you know, tarantulas. I've had, you name it. There's no animal in the world that I am afraid of. And a story, if you have time, a quick story that I want to tell you about was in Costa Rica. We had gone there and went to a place called Manuel Antonio. It was like a national park. And so, I had just gotten this new nice camera. And so I wanted to have, some animals to take pictures of. And so I said my little prayers. We entered the park, and I said, we come in peace. We would like to take photos. We are here to take the photos back to the humans back home so they don't destroy your rainforest. They, understand you better. And anybody that wants to participate, please step forward. And if everybody behaves, nobody gets hurt. Okay. So within minutes of walking on the path, there is this beautiful snake all coiled up. He looked kind of like a rattlesnakey looking. He had that kind of shape of a head that tells you it's a pit viper. And he had kind of a diamond shape on his back. And I did not freak out. I didn't, like the typical person would go, oh my God, it's a snake. It's going to bite me. No, I just said, oh, you're so beautiful. You're the most beautiful snake I've ever seen. Do I have permission to get closer and take your photo? And I hear in my head him say, of course. And I go, okay. So I got close. I took photos of him. And I said, you are the most magnificent snake. Do you mind if I take this stick? And I showed him in my mind what I was going to do. I said, do you mind if I take this stick and kind of stretch you out lengthwise so we could get a good photo of how magnificent you are? And he said, of course. So I stretched him out with the stick, got photos of him, and thanked him, and he curled back up, and we went on our way. Then we saw another snake. It was black with yellow underbelly, and he was huge. Like his girth was like the size of a man's forearm. It was big, huge. So once again, I gave him the spiel. You're the most beautiful snake I've ever seen. Do you mind if we take photos? Oh, yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Do you mind if I get closer? Of course. And the minute I did, he zoomed into the water. There was like a little river thing, little creek bed, zoomed in there. I'm hearing splash, splash, splash. And he comes back out on the bank to my feet with a frog in its mouth. And he looks up at me with this, it's like a toad because it's big. And he looks up at me and he goes, I brought you lunch. And I said, oh my God, I got pictures of that. And I said, I thank you so much. I've already eaten lunch. You go ahead and eat it. And I mean, if I would have told people that story, they never would have believed it, but I had the photos to prove it. So again, we were walking along. I see another one of those type of diamondback snakes. Ask its permission if I could take its photos, and it goes, yeah, whatever. It was having an attitude. And so I got his photos, and you could tell he really didn't want to be bothered, but he went along with it. So to give you an idea, it's like the two snakes that were the same type. One was very cooperative, more highly evolved, whereas the other one was like, yeah, whatever. You could tell he wasn't very evolved. So I get back home, I go to a herpetologist I know, and I said, do you know what kind of snakes these are? And he goes, yeah, how close were you to that? And I go, well, you see my stick in my hand? I'm like right there on him. He goes, oh my God. He goes, either you're crazy or you're just lucky because that's called a fer-de-lance. And fer-de-lance is the most deadly pit viper in South America. They not only will bite you within 15 minutes, you're dead without treatment, and then they chase you. They're very aggressive. And I said, no, these were like pussycats. They were just very sweet and very kind. They wanted, because I'm using them as an education tool, for people so they don't destroy the rainforest. And he shook his head. He goes, yeah, you're nuts. But but that was like a really good example of two different snakes, but of the same species, I guess you'd say, the same breed, that, you could definitely tell one was highly evolved.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I really think that we people who've had dogs notice that one's more evolved than the other. And I'll do one last quick story. Then would love for you to teach us something that we could use with animals. But I did take a line of clairvoyant students, like the same class that Corey teaches. I took them out to Fallbrook because these chickens weren't laying. And so someone hired us to come out there and look and see why the chickens weren't laying. So I took some clairvoyant students along with me and we set up a line. We all went in trance and we were starting to communicate with these chickens and saying, what's up? Why did you, the whole chicken coop wouldn't lay. It's been 6 months, no eggs. And they used to just produce all these eggs so we get in trance, we're saying hello to the chickens and the chickens show us a dog coming under the fence and eating him. And so all of us saw the same image in the line. So I said to the owner of this Fallbrook ranch, I said, the chickens say a dog went under the cage and killed him. And she said, oh, well, 6 months ago, yeah, there was a coyote that came and got in there and killed two of them. But what we did was we put the chicken wire way underneath like a foot down, so the coyotes couldn't dig underneath anymore. And I said, oh, well, they don't know that. So I showed the chickens the picture. I had everyone in the clairvoyant line make an image of this chicken wire that's more than a foot down that the coyote couldn't dig through. And we showed it to the chickens and said, it's safe now to do that. Next day, all the chickens laid, all of them. So they were just waiting to be safe. But I know we don't have a lot of time. So Yvonne, please take over and teach us something.
Okay, so I'm going to do a really quick, basic, simple thing that you could do every single day. And this is when, like, say, for example, you go to work and you have, like say you have a dog that's at home all day waiting for you to get home. It's, sitting there by the door. Before you come home, or even as you get in the car from work, you can just send it a thought. When I was a child, I used to watch cartoons, and I would see those little bubbles, over our head, over the head of the cartoon character, like they were sending a message. In that little bubble. So I can imagine, for example, I could put a message in this bubble above my head that says, I'll be home in 15 minutes. I'm on my way home now. And then I could blow that bubble towards my dog and see it go into the forehead of the dog and absorb. And then I could see the dog getting all excited, panting, excited, and sitting by the door. So when I got home, I would open the door, and sure enough, there's the dog sitting by the door, like anticipating, me to come. So what I'd like to do is just briefly have you close your eyes and feet flat on the floor, and just take in a nice deep breath. And as you exhale, release and let go of any doubt that you can do this communication with animals. And just take another deep breath in, breathing in confidence that you can, that you've done this before, it worked. And then exhale and let go of any stress that you may have throughout the day. And then I want you to imagine that you see your animal in your mind's eye. It can be at home, it can be at its favorite place out at nature, whether it's a dog park or, sitting in the windowsill if it's a cat, and just see the animal relaxed, in a relaxed state, and see yourself in a very relaxed state as well. And imagine, if you will, from the center of your forehead to the center of your animal's forehead, there is a bridge, and this bridge links you to your animal. And you can come up with a message that you would like to send to your animal. It could be something like, I'm on my way home. You could have it as a question like, is there anything that you need from me right now to be happier? Or what is it that you would like to do today? Any question, and try to keep it simple and keep it as one question or one statement so as to not cause confusion. And go ahead and see you walking out on this bridge, see your animal walking out on this bridge, and you meet in the middle. And you have this bubble of whatever the question is or the comment, and you hand this over to your animal. Okay? And they read it, and they respond by putting their own question or their own answer inside of another bubble. And then they hand this over to you. This goes into the center of your head. And you just quietly allow an impression to come into your mind that answered the question or the comment that you gave your animal. The first thing that comes to mind is the right thing. And thank your animal so much for allowing this communication to take place. Whether you want to give them a hug or a pet on the head, just tell them thank you. And you walk back to your own body, they walk back to their own body, and this bridge dissolves. And now you have received communication from your animal. And when you're ready, just go ahead and open your eyes, be fully present, and know that the patience that it takes to sit back and listen when your animal speaks is very important. Many times we're in a rush and we want to hear it now. We want answers now. We may get answers in ways that, like the coyote with the chickens, it thought it was a dog, but it kind of gives us a general idea of what it was. So just be patient and allow. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne, and thanks so much for being on the show. And I'd love to have you back again because this is so fascinating.
Oh,
And
thank you. And I don't want to interrupt, but I do have a talk to the animal class coming up in a couple of weeks. In
yes,
fact,
you do on Thursday, the 27th at 6 o'clock.
yes, and in this class, you'll be learning techniques on how to communicate with your pets, how to give the pets a healing. Perhaps there's past lives involved with this pet, so we can explore that a little bit as well. And look forward to seeing you there.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the show. And Corey, thank you for your contribution of your stories and being here too. And
Thank you, Vessa.
Corey teaches this. You teach this. Yep.
I do. I just did last night.
Great. Great. All right. Well, that's another episode of our podcast, Intuitive Insight School of Intuition podcast. So I'll see you all next time.
Thank you so much. Oh, and you can find these podcasts on myintuition.net under the video section.